dignified living for human beings. That was a very, very strong element. It must have been now 4 years or so on, when Pinochet was captured in England, in Great Britain, and I felt this very, very deep satisfaction that injustice is not remain unpunished. I didn't want anybody killed or even put in prison, but I wanted the world, everybody of us, to know that we are not allowed, how high or how low we are not allowed to commit crimes against humanity. And that is nothing anybody, how rich or how poor is, can afford and be called dignified human being. That was all. You know, I was not into vengeance and anything, this kind of things. I just wanted to make it clear, yeah, that the world should know, and we all should learn from that we don't have the right to commit crimes towards other people. I was one time in Sri Lanka. I had to do a study on women in Sri Lanka. It was for one of the women's conferences of the UN. And I had a rash because it was hot. I went to the beach. There was, I walked by a fisher hut, and a woman was standing out there with a small child on her arm. And I asked her where I could get this kind of powder in order to calm down the rash. And she said, well, baby powder would be the best thing. I got the baby powder. The next morning, she was standing there, and she said that her child overnight got this rash. And I said, please, I went over, I brought her the baby powder. She took it, and apparently also in a day, it was really, the relief was done. And the next morning, when I went to the shore to swim, there was this Sri Lankan woman. The hut was maybe, well, a third of this room here, tiny. Huh? And there was she was standing with a big pineapple. And she gave the pineapple to me. And she said, thank you for the powder. I'll give you what I have. And it was not, I give you that because you did something else, but we share. We share what we have. I can afford this damn baby powder, which was about almost a month's income by their income standards, and she gives me what she could get, the most beautiful and juicy pineapple of the world. And I had the feeling I learned in practice, not in theory, that sharing and giving to each other what we have is a very, very valid good, and that are goods we all have to share. And it's not only her, but this goes further and further and further. And that this smile we exchanged without really knowing each other's language, that this smile travels like a lightning, you know? It travels with the speed of the lightning and can cover the world. Yeah, so that's all quite emotional. In 2002, there was in Johannesburg, there was the World Meeting on Sustainable Development. And until then, the Austrian government had really neglected the issue of sustainable development. Lots of words, you know, just words, hot air, nothing else. And as there was this meeting, a big meeting, and Austria wanted to show that it's really involved, used this opportunity to start a big campaign to evoke understanding about the connections of sustainability, our livelihood, modern technology, sharing one world all together. And I think that was something which really started to move things. And you could see children now really taking care of trying not to litter the streets, the towns and cities, to have big programs, to be careful, to start to save energy, to start to save water, the whole issue of water and the future of water provision for the planet. We are lucky we have fresh water from the mountains. I mean, I have the best water in the world, just out of the tap. And I thought that that was it doesn't sound so much like peace and war and human rights, but it comes down to it. Because if we share those resources and treat them in a careful way, then they are longer available, and we might in the meantime find ways and means how to produce enough so that they can help all of us also to prevent us to get in conflicts over these very rare resources like water. That's another one. I mean, there are so many things. I mean, every day is full. I mean, I would say that I'm basically interested in everything. I'm standing in the airport and I observe people, and it's not boring. You observe how they interact, what they are doing, and actually it's interesting. There's hardly any moment. I prefer that to go into a museum. Museums are lovely, but I mean, sort of to watch humans interact, I find it even by far more interesting. Like here, I can go in Vienna, I can go in, we have fantastic museums from the time of the emperors. They brought it from all of their conquests. I mean, they went to Spain and got all those pictures, and they went to somewhere else, to Egypt, and we have all those things, and Montezuma's feather, a crown, all of that we have. But basically, I find humans the most interesting, fascinating object one can observe. And again, I think smiling is a very important tool to open the hearts and go around. It's up to us to make this place a livable place, to keep it a livable place for some, but make it to be a livable place for others. And it's a shared responsibility. It's a shared truth. I mean, the concepts of truth, that we should try to have a good balance between intellectual and emotional approaches, that we have to embrace the whole person and whole groups and whole countries, and should not pick out that what is really pleasant to us, but there is so much, yeah? And we have to embrace the entity of all. And if one of each of us, I mean, we are part of humanity. If I try to live up, I don't want to say to be good and nice and kind, because we often aren't. But if I try to be honest and try to find decent solutions which take care of the needs of others and mine, and I'm a part of this humanity, and if we all do that, actually, I think the surface of the world could be changed slowly, and we will be able to overcome all the incidences that are not so favorable to our survival.